Hey friends, it's Temur, and we just got the final Tarkir Dragonstorm Commander deck list revealed. They were saving the best for last. We got the Dragon deck, Temur Roar. This Temur Precon is focused on dragons, and it also has a theme of creatures with power 4 or greater. So there's a lot of cards that reward you for playing dragons, there's a lot of dragons in there, and there's also a lot of cards that reward you for playing big creatures, which dragons happen to be. Also, while it's technically a Temur deck, it's really like a mono red deck that is splashing blue and green. So think of it as like if you're trying to have a salad, you say, oh, I have a lot of veggies in it, but it's like a tomato salad, and then you sprinkle some basil on top or something like that. That's basically what the list is. Full disclaimer, I'm a huge dragon fanboy. I have not one but 2 commander decks that are focused on dragons. My latest one being Is It Dragons, led by Ganex and Feywild Visitor. I absolutely love dragons, so I'm super biased towards liking this precon, and I'm so hyped to dive into all the cards. All these precons come with 2 brand new legendary creatures that can lead the deck, and in this case, we got the first one being Eshki, Temur's Roar. This is a 3-mana Temur, legendary creature human warrior. It's a 2/2 that says whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Eshki. If that spell's power is 4 or greater, draw a card. If that spell's power is 6 or greater, Eshki deals damage equal to Eshki's power to each opponent. So Eshki is a support piece for one of the 2 main themes of the deck, which is having creature spells power 4 or greater. She actually takes it even further by rewarding you even further if it's power 6 or greater. But the main important thing is that you're casting power 4 or greater, because then you get that sweet card draw, baby. So you cast any creature spell, you grow Eshki, so it can go kind of Voltron-y or just like grow into a threat and a good blocker. 4 or greater is the real sweet spot though. That's when you start drawing cards on top of that. And then if you got 6 or greater, boom, you're also dealing a lot of damage to your opponents too. That's all well and good though, but who are we kidding? The main star of the show over here is definitely Ureni of the Unwritten. Again, dragon fanboy, I'm obviously biased here, but let's see this card. It's a 7-mana Temur, 7/7 legendary creature spirit dragon, has flying trample, and whenever it enters or attacks, look at the top 8 cards of your library. You may put a dragon creature card from among them onto the battlefield, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So Ureni provides a massive payoff to the second theme of the deck, which is dragons. There's a lot of dragon creatures, and in a dragon deck, Ureni offers card advantage and mana advantage, because you're getting a card from your library and putting it directly on the battlefield without spending mana to actually cast it. So card advantage is the fact that it's not from your hand, it's from your library. So it's like you're essentially drawing a card and then putting it onto the battlefield for free, which is the mana advantage. This card is obviously very, very good. Card advantage and mana advantage are very good things, and dragons are usually really expensive. Usually they're like 5 or 6 or even more mana, like Ureni itself is 7 mana. So just putting like a 7-drop dragon on the battlefield for something for no mana is really good. It's a really good card. Now, obviously, we can't talk about Temur dragons without addressing the dragon in the room, the spirit dragon in the room, the other spirit dragon in the room, actually, and that is Miirym Sentinel Wurm. So Miirym Sentinel Wurm, I think it's like the 2nd most popular dragon commander of all time, and dragons are one of the most popular creature type of all time. And I think in fantasy in general, I think it's like top 3 in Magic, if not top 1. So Miirym's incredibly popular. A lot of people know about Miirym. It's an incredibly powerful commander too. That's also why it's so popular, and it's Temur, the same colors as Ureni. And interesting to note, Miirym is not in this precon. It seems like an easy inclusion. However, the designers went on record to specifically address Miirym when they were doing their live stream showcasing this deck a couple hours ago. They specifically called out Miirym. They said they don't want to have a secret 3rd commander in the precon that would be stronger than the 2 main commanders of the deck and overshadow them. And Miirym was specifically called out as an example of a type of commander that is much stronger than the other 2 that were printed here, that would possibly overshadow them. So the fear is like, if Miirym's in the 99, then people would just be like, oh, this is just stronger as my commander. I'm just going to make this a Miirym deck. And I actually agree with this design philosophy. Miirym's very popular and very powerful, but the problem is that Miirym is a little bit too good. Miram is like a high-powered commander, especially the fact that it has Ward 2 makes it incredibly difficult to shut down, and it's such a huge value engine that it's usually best suited at like higher power tables. At least like I would say it's like automatically a bracket 3 style commander if we want to use the bracket system. And the problem arises is that stock precons are inherently bracket 2. They're a little bit lower power. They're introductions to the commander format. So if you had Miram as an option for the stock list would just destroy the other stock precons that came out with Dragonstorm and, you know, basically anything else that came out, any precon that came out in the last couple of years as well. And I don't think that's great. I actually know a lot of people who initially built Miram lists and, you know, optimized them and then found out they could just never play them in their playgroup because the deck ended up being too strong. So that's actually a trap of powerful commanders. They could end up being too powerful that you end up not being able to play them anymore. So I think it's actually good that Miram's not in the deck, and Areni is basically a lower power Miram deck. It's not weak by any stretch of the imagination. The ability is very powerful. It's just that Miram's ability is so strong that it's hard to compare to, and it's kind of unfair to compare to, honestly. And on top of that, it has Ward 2 on top of everything, so it's also harder to shut down. So I just like Areni. Like, sometimes you want to play a Temur Dragon deck, but you don't want to be as ridiculous as a Miram list. So this allows you to play your Temur Dragon deck at a slightly lower power pod, a slightly more chill pod. And I think that's actually really good that we have that alternative now. Anywho, enough about the two commanders leading the deck. Now let's check out the rest of the new cards, the 8 new cards that are coming in the precon. We'll start with Deceptive Frostkite. This is a 2-mana blue creature dragon. It's a 1/1 flying, and you may have this creature enter as a copy of a creature you control of power 4 or greater, except it's a dragon in addition to its other type, and it has flying. In a typical dragon deck, you're going to have so many good options to copy. This is just like 2 mana, copy your best like 5, 6, 7 mana dragon on the battlefield, which is excellent. I love this card. The next one we've got is a nice top end, very different from the last one. This is Broodcaller Scourge. It's a 7 mana green creature dragon. It's a 5/7 flying, and whenever one or more dragons you control deal combat damage to a player, you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to that damage from your hand onto the battlefield. So this is a top end for dragon decks that is basically like top end ramp, you could think of it like, where, you know, you deal like 6 damage with a dragon, you can immediately put into play a 6-drop onto the battlefield from your hand. So it's like huge pseudo ramp in your deck, or I guess it's just straight, it is ramp. It's just a unconventional ramp, you could call it. The next new card is Become the Avalanche. This is a 6 mana green sorcery that says draw a card for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Then creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So this is card draw for a big stompy style deck, but also an overrun effect for that same style of deck. Notably, this overrun effect does not give trample or any sort of evasion. However, in a dragon deck like this one, that doesn't really matter because all your dragons inherently fly. So in this deck, it's absolutely excellent. However, there's certain other decks too that can really take advantage of this ability. And the first one that comes to mind are actually landfall decks. Landfall decks are really good at flooding the table with big beefy tokens. Think like Omnath Locus of Rage. Whenever you play a land, you make a 5/5, or Rampaging Bailouts, which is like a classic EDH staple from way back when. Whenever you play a land, you make a 4/4. So actually, I think landfall decks, especially like landfall token decks, are some of the best suited to actually gain the most out of the card draw of Become the Avalanche, because actually like playing a bunch of big creatures is rather difficult for most archetypes, but lands are specifically very good at doing so, flooding the board with really big creatures by just playing lands. So Become the Avalanche just becomes incredibly efficient at drawing cards and also doubles as a win condition. Again, no evasion, but I mean, making all your creatures like 10/10s or whatever is going to be really sweet. And you can draw like 5 or more cards really easily off Become the Avalanche. It's really good in landfall. The next new card is one of my favorite new ones from the deck. This is Parapet Thrasher. This is a 4-mana red creature dragon. It's a 4/3 with flying. And whenever one or more dragons you control deal combat damage to an opponent, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. This turn Destroy target artifact that opponent controls. This creature deals 4 damage to each other opponent. And the final mode is exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So it's a dragon that gives a dragon payoff. You can either blow up an artifact, you can deal damage, or you can draw cards. All these things are absolutely wonderful. Removal, burn, and card draw. What more can you ask for a 4-drop dragon payoff? I love this card. It's great in the stock list, obviously. However, I'm selfishly very excited for this card because I have another dragon deck. It's not technically a dragon deck though. I guess it's technically a dragon deck. It's led by the Dragon, but it's my changeling deck. And so I have a bunch of changelings that are every single creature type. And then I run like all the type of creature lord effects, the most efficient ones from every single creature type, and just jam them together with my changeling and have a wild time with it. And Parapet Thrasher is efficient enough and good enough to actually fit in the changeling archetype. It's a 3-drop with Dragon due to the Eminence ability, and then stuff like Changing Outcast. It's a 1-mana dragon that has evasion, so you can easily trigger Parapet Thrasher's ability, and you can really maximize all 3 of those modes really easily. So I love this card for selfish reasons, and also the fact that it's great in the stock list in any dragon deck, really. The next new card is Thundermane Dragon. It's a 4-mana red creature dragon. It's a 4/4 flying. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells with power 4 or greater from the top of your library. If you cast a creature spell this way, it gains haste until end of turn. So there's a card advantage and also a haste enabler for your big stompy decks. Not necessarily dragon decks. Anything that's stompy-ish and creature heavy is going to enjoy it, but obviously it's a dragon and it's going to fit very well in dragon decks as well. I love this card. For 4 mana, this is a lot of value. Card advantage and haste is just a beautiful combination. I like it. Really good. No notes. The next new card is Hammerhead Tyrant, a 6-mana blue dragon. Oh, we got some blue here. It's a 6/6 flyer. And whenever you cast a spell, return up to 1 target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value less than or equal to that spell's mana value to its owner's hand. Now, this card I'm a little about. I feel like it's a 6-mana 6/6, which is already good. It has evasion, so it's a good body on the battlefield. But I don't know. I'm always wary about these type of cards because they draw a lot of hates to you, and they're a very slow effect. You want to have the Hammerhead Tyrant on the battlefield, and you probably have to wait a turn cycle before you start utilizing it properly. And then the more turns it actually gets to stick around, the much better it becomes. But I don't know. It's kind of slow, and it's going to annoy your opponents. I still like it, I guess. It gets much more interesting, though, in certain decks that can, cast spells with high mana value, but like cheat on the mana cost. Like, for example, if you can cast like a Gush or like a Submerge, those type of cards are going to be really, really cheaty face with Hammerhead Tyrant, and you can really utilize them better in those decks, in my opinion, and not so much in the stock PRECON, although in the stock PRECON, it's fine too. Next, we got Zenith Festival. It's a X and double red sorcery spell. Exile the top X cards from your library. You may play them until the end of your next turn. And as Harmonize, X and double red. Harmonize is a new mechanic. It's a Temur mechanic in the Dragonstorm set. And it says you may cast this card from your graveyard for its Harmonized cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce that cost by an amount of generic mana equal to its power, then exile this spell. So Harmonize is like a new take on Flashback, except you can tap a creature control to reduce the generic mana cost of the Flashback cost. This is a nice card advantage in a Go Tall style deck, though you very much want to have this in your graveyard. I think just casting it from your hand is not super mana efficient. Like, it's fine, but you generally don't want to be doing it. But when you have it in your graveyard and you have like a 6-power creature or something like that, you can pay 2 mana, tap your 6-power creature, and then you essentially see 6 more cards. You essentially draw 6 more cards. That's really, really good. I think it's solid here, but it's especially good in either decks that care about casting from exile, like Prosper. Prosper has to be mentioned, or in decks that have high power creatures and can also efficiently discard Zenith Festival, so you can just cast the Harmonized cost and not have to hard cast the weaker version of it. So for example, I have a Melik Reforged Researcher deck that is all about having a really huge commander that Voltron kills, and is all about discarding, because the more instant sorceries in the graveyard, the bigger Melik becomes. So something like Zenith Festival is going to read like pay 2 mana, Harmonize for like 10, 12, very, very easily with Melik. So I'm very excited to put in my Melik deck. The next new card is Will of the Temur. Oh, I love this card so much. It's a 6-mana blue sorcery. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both instead. The two modes are Mode 1, create a token that's a copy of target permanent except as a 4/4 dragon creature with flying in addition to its other types. And Mode 2 is target player draws card is equal to the greatest mana value among permanents you control. So it's a copy spell that also makes it into a dragon, which is obviously much better. And then also card draw, and it could be both if you have your commander out. What's not to love about this will effect? I love it here. It's obviously great in a dragon deck, and I'm especially very excited to have it in my Ganex Feywild Visitor deck. Obviously, I gotta shout them out. This is a great home for it because the Feywild Visitor, the background, is an enchantment that kind of sits around the entire game very easily. It comes out early, and it often doesn't die. Like, Ganex dies all the time, but Feywild Visitor, being an enchantment, not a creature, kind of sticks around for a long time. It is a commander, though. It's my commander, so you can cast Will of the Temur with just Feywild Visitor out and just have access to both modes, so that's really good with these two over here. Also, look, I even have a cool Is It deck box for them. Isn't that neat? I think it's neat. All right, we checked out the 10 brand new cards that are exclusive to the deck, and now let's check out the rest of the deck, the reprints. And we're going to start with the 4 most expensive cards, and then check out the rest of them. As always, keep in mind that the cards you're seeing here are not going to be the same card versions that you're going to be finding in the PRECON. The set symbol is going to be the Dragonstorm Commander set symbol on all these cards. And secondly, the card art can also be different as well. Now, Temur Roar has one of the highest reprint value I've ever seen on a PRECON, and that's all because, well, it's the dragon PRECON, obviously. Dragons are in top 3, if not top 1, most popular creature type in Magic, one of the most in fantasy in general. So there's always going to be a lot of people who are super hyped for any sort of dragon deck. Dragons in general, every single dragon card comes with basically the dragon tax, where you're just going to be paying more money for any type of halfway decent dragon card just because so many people are so excited about dragons in Magic. And then obviously there was a lot of people buying into the hype, buying dragon cards in advance, especially speculators who are speculating and hoping that dragon staples don't show up in the PRECON. So yeah, that's why the card prices are so high, why the reprint value of this PRECON is so high, and also why you probably are never going to find this PRECON at MSRP. It's probably sold out everywhere. Anywho, the top 4 most expensive cards. The first one is almost $30 by itself. It's Nogi Draco Zealot. I actually forgot this card existed. I think it's like a game night special or something like that. It's like some special promo version card thingy that's hard to find. But yeah, it's almost $30, so it's a really good reprint here. Hellkite Courser is fantastic in dragon decks where the dragon is really expensive, like shout out Dragon, for example. Sarkhan Soul of Flame, just a really good Is It dragon support card, like it gives you ramp and turns into dragons, and it's only seen one printing so far. And then Sylvanas Stampede, I think also this card hasn't seen any reprintings yet, and it's just a really good way for green decks to poop out really big creature cards, and dragons fit that bill very well. Now, the rest of the reprints are going to be starting from creatures, or we're going to go from low mana value to high mana value, and then we're going to do the same with the other card types. The reprints overall are a little bit disappointing in my opinion. We got cards like Dragon Master Outcast, which I just don't think is worth it in a dragon deck. Like, sure, it eventually makes dragons for you, but I feel like we could do a lot better than this in 2025. Dragonlord Servant is okay, but like, we're in a Temur deck. We could just straight up land ramp instead of running this. Gadrak is like not very good in my opinion. Torian Mauler feels like filler, honestly. It is a dragon and it is a low drop, and you know, it grows to activate the like 4 power matters type cards, but yeah, it's not very exciting here. Atsushi is a good one. It fits better in like sacrifice style decks, but it is a dragon. It will eventually die and it will give you value. Leyline Tyrant is fine here. It's better in mono red decks, but it's fine here. Opportunistic Dragon it's fine as well. It's not very good, but it's fine. Territorial Hellkite, it's okay. You know, it's fine. Thunderbreak Regent, it's dragon support, but the support is pretty weak. Vengeful Ancestor, Goat is nice, I guess. Varix Bladewing, just not very good. Just not very good for what you're getting. Glorybringer, it was very good in standard. It's okay. In Commander, I guess, it's removal a little bit. Then Harbinger of the Hunts, just not exciting. Nesting Dragon, it's okay. Rapacious Dragon is just limited fodder. Skargan Hellkite, I forgot existed. It's not good. Yeah, there's a lot of bad dragons being printed here, which is a little bit disappointing. Stormbreath Dragon is, again, also very good in Standard way back in the day. Not very good in Commander. Then we got some new cards from the main set. Stormshriek Feral is fine. Whirlwing Stormbrood I like quite a bit. So those are nice here. Kega the Tide Star, I mean, it's fine. Eventually it dies and you might steal something. Feels awful, though, when somebody wipes the board and you can steal nothing and you paid 6 mana for a 5/5 flyer, but whatever. Lathliss. Lathliss is a good reprint. Like to see it here. One of the best dragon support cards. Love to see it. Scourge of the Throne. Really good dragon. Extra combats are always great. Steel Hellkite. It's fine. It can deal with tokens really, really efficiently. So you can get rid of like clue tokens, treasure tokens, or like creature tokens really, really easily. Atarka, it's a dragon support card. It's kind of overcosted, but it's good. Another Atarka, it's fine. And then we got the support cards. So we got Rapid Hybridization is good. Farseek is good. Reality Shift is fine. Beast Within is good. Chaos Warp is good. Kodama's Reach is good. We're missing some land ramp, though. Like, where's, like, the other, like, ramping growth effects? Whatever. Split Flame is thematic, but not very good. Migration Path is good. Storm's Wrath is nice. Most of your big creatures live through this, so it's nice. Draconic Lore is good. Blasphemous Act is very good. Love to see it. And then we got some artifacts, mostly just ramp cards. Soul Ring is good. Arcane Signet is good. Fellwar Stone, Talisman of Creativity, Talisman of Impulse. These cards could have just been like just green land ramp instead, but whatever. Dragon's Horde is thematic and good. Dragon Tempest, one of the best support pieces in a dragon deck. Just, some burn, and then also Haste Enabler for 2 mana is really good. Elemental Bond, solid card draw, incremental card draw. Temur Ascendancy, very excellent. Absolutely awesome card. Haste and card draw rolled into one. Encroaching Dragonstorm is a new card from the main set. I think it's very good. It's just an explosive vegetation attached to an enchantment that he can repeat play over and over again as dragons keep entering. Frontier Siege is also pretty solid. Breaching Dragonstorm, another new card that I like quite a bit. Reflection of Liara, a little bit too slow, but whatever. It's like Miram at home, essentially. And then we get the lands. So for lands, for a 3-color deck, I'm looking for mana-fixing lands that enter the battlefield untapped. 2-color lands, I want them to enter the battlefield untapped, ideally. If they're 3-color lands, they can enter the battlefield tapped. That's fine. So, Bountiful Landscape, I think it's good. Cinderglade, I think is good. Command Tower, excellent. Evolving Wilds, do not like. Get it out of here. Exotic Orchard, very much like. The filter lands like Flooded Grove, I like. The Tri-Land, obviously, I like. Haven of the Spirit Dragon, that's flavorful and good. Check lands, I love. Pain lands, I love. Keswick Wolfrun, I absolutely love. Yes, it's colorless, but the utility is really, really good. I think it's a little bit less good here just because all your creatures have flying, so they don't need the trample, but, the fire breathing effect is nice. The filter lands I like. Mossword Bridge is solid. Path of Ancestry is good. The slow lands are good. Check lands are good. The cycle lands are not very good, but whatever. Shivan Reef, very nice. Sulphur Falls, very nice. The temples, do not like, although I do like Temple of the Dragon Queen just because of the flavor of it. I mean, it's a dragon land. It's nice. Not a great card, but it is very flavorful. And then finally got Yavimaya Coast, very much like. And then the rest of them are just basic lands. So on the plus side, the new cards are all excellent. I love the new cards. The downside, though, is that a lot of the dragon reprints suck. They're bad. They're just draft chaff. They were essentially selected. The only reason why they're here and not better dragons are here is just it comes down to price, right? Dragons are very expensive. They always come with the dragon tax, as it will. And even with a whole bunch of the worst dragons they could scrounge up from the draft pile, it's still like $190 pre-order price in terms of reprint value, which is insane. Absolutely bananas. So I think they were just like, hey, we can't keep printing a lot of really expensive cards in this deck, so now we just have to find filler that is cheap. cheap filler, throw it in here, and make the best out of it. And the end result is that we have some really exciting new cards. Dragons are obviously very exciting in general, and it's filled with like some mediocre garbage, just a lot of garbage. And I think they'll still do an okay job, especially for Rennie's the commander, because, just attacking over Rennie, putting just like a random vanilla 6/6 on the battlefield, 5/4 flyer on the battlefield is going to be good enough sometimes. But it just kind of feels a little bit disappointing, I guess. I wish price wasn't a main factor here, and I wish there were some more exciting cards to talk about in the reprints. But yeah, that's kind of what we got. Now, I don't want to be a huge downer. I think like if you buy this precon at a reasonable price, that you're going to have still a fun time just because Rennie is so powerful. It's not even as powerful as Miram, and still it's going to be very powerful. I'm sure they play tested this deck versus the other ones from Dragonstorm, so I'm sure it's good enough to hold its own, yada yada. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement in this list for sure. It's just going to be very difficult for me too, because I'm planning an upgrade guide for this deck, obviously, and I'm going to take it in a dragon direction, obviously. And it's also going to be difficult, just like the people who had to come up with the precon, just like me. If I have to have $25 worth of dragons, how many good dragons can I actually fit in a $25 budget? It's going to be difficult. It's going to be an interesting puzzle to solve for sure. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the list. The new cards are really, really good. Some of the reprints for the dragons are really good. Obviously, the non-dragon cards are quite solid. Like Farseek is a good card. Dragon Tempest is an excellent card. So like it's not all just bad reprints or whatever. But yeah, some of the dragons are only here because they were cheap. But yeah, that's my closing thoughts on the list. It's an excellent start if you want to play a dragon deck in Commander, and you could find this at a reasonable price. I think this card, this precon is going to be incredibly expensive in general to find. It's going to be sold out everywhere, but if you can find it at like close to MSRP, I think it's going to be a good launching off pad. If you can't find it at MSRP, I would probably wait until the precon upgrade guide. I'd probably find a lot of good dragons for you that aren't super expensive, that you could do better than a lot of the filler crap that's in here. So that's just my 2 cents, and obviously I'm biased. But yeah, that's my thoughts for Temur Roar, my initial impressions. Hope that helped you all. Tell me what cards you are most excited for in the comment section below, and I will be back soon with precon upgrade guides. I think the Mardu precon upgrade guide is going up tomorrow, and I'm going to start working on the other ones immediately. So that's all I have for now. Until next time, friends. See ya!